Hi romance friends, Janelle here, and I'm super excited to do my first ever book review and arc review on Fast and Reckless, a new book by Amanda Weaver that is coming out today, September 10, 2024. So this is a Formula One book, and I had so much fun reading this. I feel like I had been in a reading slump recently, and this was finally a book that I felt like I could have read in one sitting. Of course I couldn't because I had adult responsibilities and had to watch my kids, but I easily could have just read this all in one sitting. It was really fun and definitely recommend to anyone who loves Formula One. All right, so let's dive in and look at this book. But first, there will be some minor spoilers. Gonna try to keep it, pretty spoiler free, but of course some things are gonna come out, so just be warned about that. Also, I want to note that I am specifically going to be reviewing this book and looking at this book through the lens of a sex educator. So this is not going to be a literary analysis. It's more going to look at the greater sexual health messages that I found in the book that I thought were really impactful and had the potential to be very empowering and liberating for readers. So if you are interested in a book from that point of view, I invite you to come along for the ride. Now, one more thing, do want to say that I'm not only looking at the spicy parts as a sex educator, I know, and when I talk about the sexual health messages, it's easy to think I'm just going to talk about the spicy parts. We are going to look at that, but more importantly, going to look at the greater holistic sexual health messages. And if you want a better idea of what I mean by that, you can click the video, I'll link to it up here, that dives into the biopsychosocial model, which gives a lot of context for these holistic messages that we see in romance. All right, so let's dive into the things that I really liked about this book and appreciated from that sex educator point of view, and also from my sports romance girly point of view as well. So the first thing that I really appreciated in this story was all of the ways that Will, the MMC, really worked to establish consent and to respect boundaries throughout their entire relationship with Mira and Will. And you just see this in so many ways, that times that are connected to those spicy scenes, sexual experiences, but also just in every interaction that he has with her. And it's so, you just can feel it, and you just sense the safety and the security, especially when you compare that with the toxic ex, who is also a part of the story. So I really appreciate how intentional the author was, and the author was Amanda Weaver. I don't know, hopefully I said that earlier, but I really appreciate how Amanda was able to do that in writing this story and elevate those expectations that readers have for experiences in their own life. So connected to that toxic ex, I also appreciated how the author was able to use that toxic ex to expose really harmful, abusive, manipulative, toxic behaviors. So in this story, the female main character, when she was 16, she had a relationship with a different Formula One driver who was 30. And from her mindset, she really feels a lot of blame and guilt for that relationship when, as we're outsiders looking in, we can see, well, she's not the one to be blamed for that, right? It is the person who the 30-year-old who is preying on a 16-year-old. And so I think it's really powerful in stories how we can so starkly see this toxic behavior, because I think for a lot of readers, now maybe haven't been in a situation where it's a 16-year-old and a 30-year-old, but they've been in situations where someone is clearly treating them horribly from the outside, but when they're inside of it, it's hard to tell. It's hard to understand. It's hard to give yourself grace and forgiveness and these different things. So I think that these relationships like these and the healing from these experiences in romance books is really powerful for readers, and I really appreciated that in this story as well. Another thing that I absolutely loved about the story is the relationship between Mira and Violet. I just loved Violet in general. She's got a lot of main character energy, and I cannot wait to read her book. She's just so good. Such a great character. And the author definitely laid some groundwork for some potential relationships with another driver and some different things. So I love that female friendship. Too often, even now in 2024, we see women pit against each other, and I really appreciate that Mira has this incredible friend who's got her back, like just is there for her. And then in connection to that, also to see the relationship between Violet's mom and Violet's stepmom, or her dad's partner. I don't think they're married. But anyways, that she, again, this is a relationship, this is a dynamic that so often we see these women are pit against each other. And in this story, they are just perfect, beautiful mother figures for not Violet. See, even I got Violet in my as a main character in my mind, for Mira. And I love that she has those two supportive women in her life that are always fighting for her and advocating for her. And that's just it's so important that we see that dynamic again and again and again and again, so that we can rewrite these toxic narratives that we've been told about women. So going back a little bit to that toxic ex, one thing that at moments in the story was almost a little bit annoying to me, and I was getting impatient about it. Was like, I just wanted Mira to take control of her narrative and to stop blaming herself. And I was definitely getting a little impatient with the way it was progressing, but I had to stop and tell myself and remind myself, like, you know what, actually, I think this is a very authentic portrayal of how long it can take someone to heal and forgive themselves and to give themselves grace, and then to take that last step of taking control of their narrative. So I do think that it was an authentic progression of what people go through, and it was a good reminder for me to just have more grace and more empathy for that type of a situation. So I appreciated that as well. Now, in terms of that spicy piece, we got to talk about the spicy piece. I do think that the author did a good job of portraying an authentic timeline for Mira and Will, particularly because she was still dealing with the hurt and pain from the ex, and she had a lot of trauma that she was still working through. So for me, it really felt authentic how they would take a step forward and then go back, and then take another step forward and then go back. And that progression to me was very much in line with what I've talked about in other videos about the biopsychosocial model and working through those different elements. And I appreciated that in terms of the timeline of their physical relationship. In connection to that spiciness, we love to see the mutual pleasure, right? And we know that when we open up a romance book, we're always going to get that. So that's always a big check, a big check in the pro column for me as a sex educator when I open up a romance book. So this isn't really in connection to the sex ed element, but in terms of just me being a sports romance girly and a Formula One fan, I really appreciated how the author worked with a professional race car driver to bring in some like racing education into the story. So even though I follow Formula One pretty closely, I'm not a car person. I didn't grow up watching racing. I didn't grow up in a car-focused household, so I don't have a lot of that car and racing knowledge. So I appreciated how the author worked with that professional driver to bring in some elements that I felt like for me that were educating me on some things that I have wondered sometimes while watching Formula One. Now, in terms of some things that I would love to see explored a bit more in future books in this series, and I do believe this is going to be a series. I mean, I hope so, because Violet definitely needs her own book. I really hope that there is more gender diversity within the Formula One team. So almost every position, I think actually every major position within the Formula One team is held by a man, and I would have loved to see some more female characters in positions of power, whether it be like heads of department or even a race engineer. Or I thought at one point there's a character named Tay, and there wasn't pronouns associated with him for the majority of the story. So I thought, oh, maybe there's a female or maybe a non-binary person. But in the end, it did end up being a guy. So I was a little bit let down by that. So I'd love to see just more women holding positions of power within the Formula One team. I think there's so many ways that could be done in the story. And also along those lines, I just want to see more racial and ethnic diversity. Didn't really see any of that in the story, and so that would just be awesome to see more of in future books in this series. And so yeah, hopefully that happens. So overall, I really enjoyed this book. Definitely recommend. It was one of those books, I was a very fast-paced read, as I mentioned. I easily could have read it in one sitting, and now I've got Formula One on the mind. I definitely need to go reread all of Lauren Asher's Dirty Air series. That was the series that literally like a month after I got into watching Formula One, I found Lauren Asher's Dirty Air series, and it has set the bar so high in terms of Formula One books. So I definitely am going to go reread those and reread Kat Ransom's Fast series, another really well done Formula One series. And I will be looking for more recs. So if you have more Formula One recs, drop them in the comments. I want to read them all, and let me know who your favorite drivers are, or if reading Formula One got you, or reading a Formula One romance book got you into Formula One. I'd love to hear it, and definitely take a second to hit that like and subscribe and share this with a friend. So that's it for my review, trying to keep it short and sweet and just highlight some of the things that I really appreciate in this book from my sex educator point of view. And let me know if you've read it, what you think of it. I'll drop the links below so that you can access it. I don't know if it's going to be on Kindle Unlimited, but I will put all the links below.